Architects, pull up your Eames chair, put on those black spectacles, and pour yourself a piping hot cup of strong black coffee because we're about to delve into unfiltered conversations with architects from all over the world discussing all things health and wellness. So if you're an architect that's been searching for more balance, more fulfillment, and more overall health and happiness, turn up your hearing aids just a notch because we've got the answers. I'm your host, Morgan Chihuaga, a licensed architect, stress management consultant, and founder of The Healthy Architect. Grab your trace paper and let's dive in.
Diane Yabbit, like rabbit, is what you just told me. How are you today? And thank you so much for being on the Healthy Architect podcast.
Thanks, Morgan. I'm happy to be here, and this is my first podcast ever.
Yay! You're a podcast virgin.
Yes, so thank you for not making me one anymore.
You never know. This might be the first of many podcasts. That's super exciting for you.
Yeah, I might really like this and look for more every week.
Or maybe they'll find you because you attract. Who knows? Well, for my audience, this is Diane Yabbit. She's a senior designer and licensed architect at KTGY. Is that correct?
Correct. That's right.
Great. Tell me and my audience a little bit about yourself, Diane, and your health and wellness.
Oh, where to start? Okay, a little bit about me without the health and wellness first. I am in my 30s. I'm in my 30s. I work at KTGY for 11 years now. So I've been working at the same firm almost all of my professional career, like right after school. I am originally from California and then moved to DC July 2019. So I got to experience it before the pandemic, which was really fun. During the pandemic, it was very isolating and I didn't have any family here. And, I just made those new friends that didn't really get to build up into a stronger relationship. So it felt like I was alone for most of the pandemic. And that's when I started going to therapy and I found a therapist that I trust. She was a good fit for me. So she helped me navigate through that part of my mental wellness while also working, while also doing all these other things, trying to build community, which I did through yoga. Yeah, 2024, after the pandemic, still in DC. I've pretty much placed my roots here in a way. I bought a condo, so I'm kind of tied.
Congrats on the
Thank you.
condo. Amazing. I know that
Thanks.
can be stressful too. Extremely stressful trying to purchase a property, especially your first one.
Yes, exactly. And that was, I felt really lucky. Everything was aligned because it happened before the mortgage rates went up. So that was
Oh,
like December 2021.
great. Good job.
Yeah. I'm
I
like,
don't know if
I'm not
that's
moving.
I'm never moving again.
Exactly.
So tell me a little bit about the process of purchasing a property. Is this your first property?
Correct. It is.
So tell me a little bit about that on top of having a full-time job in a stressful career.
Purchasing a property. So this was December 2021. We were working from home and there's no inclination of going back to the office at that time. It was I'm very much of a person that if I set my mind to it, I already knew I was gonna buy one. Like I'm gonna start looking in November and I know that I'm gonna pick one as soon as I start my condo hunting.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really lucky to have my best friend. I feel like she's always there on those most critical parts of my life. So she was here to visit me in DC and I'm like, let's just go look. Let's
Hey,
just go look.
that's actually really fun though, right?
Yeah.
It can be. It can be.
Yeah, it's so important to have that support system and building your tribe and surrounding yourself with people who genuinely care and love you and support you. So she was here and I was just showing her around DC, but then I'm like, well, I really wanted to go to these open houses And then so she picked some, I picked some, and then we were just looking around. And then there was one I was like, okay, I think I like this one. I could actually see myself living here. It's in the neighborhood that I've been in DC, and it just felt right. Everything just felt like, okay, I could live here. So I started the process. I'm trying to think. I mean, I asked my aunt and uncle. I asked people who have bought property before. Like where do I go for to get to find the best mortgage rates, to do the inspections and all those other things. They give you a big list of things to do with your realtor, and it's overwhelming. Like when you look at the condo documents, and it's a thick one, and they're like, we don't expect you to read it. But they're like, if you have a lawyer. I'm like, who has a personal
Who has a
lawyer?
personal lawyer? Not
Yeah.
well, many people, probably not.
Yeah, well, not for your own person. Yeah, for your own personal
Right. Was that
ventures.
time stressful in your life, or was it actually more fun to purchase a property while having a full-time job?
I would say both. It's exciting in a sense of, this place is going to be mine. Like there's that possession to it. I don't have to move ever again if I don't really want to. And you can decorate it and show your personality however you'd like. I think I was just really excited about not moving.
And you don't have family in DC, correct?
Correct.
So how did that feel, wanting to purchase a property or knowing that you're going to purchase a property without family nearby?
I rely heavily on my friends. I have the best friends, and I've been really lucky to have them. If I if I needed help moving, like I never ask my friends to help me move because I'm like, I want to protect your back. And there's no way I'm gonna ask you to help me move. But it's more like, can you be at my place with me? Because it's gonna be hard for one person to kind of direct where things go and the parking situation, all those things. So I had friends that helped me facilitate how the move is going to work on the move day, and just thankful for them.
And are your friends the ones that you're speaking about right now, like the ones that you're thinking about right now, actually, are they in architecture or are they outside of architecture?
That's a good question. So my best friend that I've known since middle school, she's not an architect.
Yeah.
No, we're so opposites. Like I remember we would go to look at colleges together, and the ones that I wanted to go to, the ones that I'm interested in, she's like, yeah, no interest in that. So we would take a longer road trip to hit the colleges that we wanted to visit. But the friends that I've created in DC, it started with my architect friends because, they're like my coworkers. So starting here, where my regular visit was going to work, it was building a community at work first. So one of my best friends here is my coworker.
Yeah. And can you tell me a little bit about the importance of having a community? I mean, you basically uprooted yourself prior to the pandemic, but into a whole other city, not knowing anybody. And basically, you had to rely on your work. And during the pandemic, how did you create a community to work on your mental health or to help with your mental health?
I would say it was, like without knowing the pandemic, I was very, very much more upbeat. I was trying to make friends with everyone, try not to say no to going to places that are new to me, like going to these trivia nights and all those other things. But then when it was pandemic time, and then after the pandemic, I knew I needed to concentrate on my physical health and my mental health. So I found a yoga studio that was close to my apartment at the time, and I fell in love with the community that was around that yoga studio. It was the hardest workouts I've ever done, and I've met like the best instructors. Also, just going to something regularly, that builds the community that you're trying to grow into.
And so now you're a yoga instructor, right? You teach yoga on the
Yes.
weekends?
Yes, so that was actually the community that was helping me build that yoga love, I guess. So that was the start of it all, going to that yoga studio and then becoming an instructor after, I want to say, like 2 years. And now I've been there for 2 years teaching.
So you went for 2
Mhm.
years, you were a student for 2 years, and then you went to get your certification or become a teacher or whatever that might be?
Yes. And I've been doing yoga in California prior to DC.
So tell me, how did that help your mental health?
Yeah, sure. I mean, yoga is a blend of the physical, the mental, and the spiritual. I never try to push like spiritual on anyone because that's your own discovery phase of your life. And it's the most frustrating and the most exciting part because you can't see it. So you're working on yourself on the subconscious mind, and that's a whole like deep conversation. But for the physical and the mental part, the physical part, I feel like yoga helps you really be in the moment, especially hot yoga, because you are kind of just disciplining yourself to stay in the room where it is hot, trying to go through the poses and do the best you can and holding it. And that's already tough in itself. And it's a marathon, it's 90 minutes long. You are you've committed yourself for that long. And a lot of times when I'm in yoga, that's when I am, one, giving a lot of grace to my body, just because I can feel sort of like where the imbalance and where the tensions are. And that's where I have to put more attention and move with intention to release that stress. Because your body keeps a lot of what you are feeling. And sometimes you don't know that. So that's, I would say that's the physical, and the mental part, it's that pause in your day when you're really trying not to think about anything else. You're not thinking about your work or what are the things that you have to do for that day. It's your commitment to yourself and just that dedication of, I'm going to relax and I am going to release the tension physically and mentally.
Yeah, you're right. I mean, so often we store stress and anxiety either in our muscles or it's built up in our bodies or even in our brain.
Yeah.
Taking that time to release that is so needed on a regular basis. And you said something that was interesting to me, or something that I definitely relate to, is being in the present moment.
Mhm.
And I feel like I know that architects need to practice being in the present moment more,
Mhm.
because so often we are thinking of the future, like thinking about problem solving in the future or having anxiety about the past, that we forget to actually be in this present moment.
Yeah. I totally agree with you. And I think as architects, the number one thing that we know is to problem solve. And sometimes you don't have to problem solve and you just have to be there and be still and take it in. And that's where you will find the joy of everything else. Like you don't have, I think this is a lot in relationships when a person is talking and your partner wants to, the immediate the immediate response is to problem solve, but you only really just need that person to listen.
Yeah, no, you're so right. Do you think it has helped you slow down at all, yoga?
Definitely. I can tell that my masculine energy of just go 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 go, attack attack attack, and achieve this, check mark this, like do all those things, has always been the main driver in my life. But that balance of yoga, of really being still, of meditating, of being in the present, of looking at things internally has let me, one, make me way more relaxed. I realized I don't have to chase things. Like, there's so much abundance in the world, and whatever is meant for me is gonna come to me.
And has that just made you a happier individual overall? I mean,
Yes. it it takes out all of the stress. And it, for some people, it's not going to be yoga. It's going to be something else, and that's the discovery of yourself. You're trying to figure out what is it that brings out the most you out of you, and it's important to build that. And I've definitely felt it in yoga because I'm not around people who are architects, because I've always been around that kind of mentality, and it's just a different part, a different piece of you.
yeah, I think with my experience at least, we often, as architects, we look externally so much, right? We look externally at the contractor, we look externally at our world, at our office, at our coworkers, at the principal, at
Hmm.
all these things externally, and we allow that to impact us. But something that yoga has had an impact on me, or a way that yoga has an impact on me, is allowed me to look internally
Hmm.
and to calm myself internally and to remind myself who I am internally, separate from architecture.
Yeah, because we're not all just our jobs. It's great that if your job brings you everything you need, like it completes you 100%, but there's gonna be parts of you where you're gonna have to find it in something else. You're gonna have to find the peace, to find the stillness in something else.
Your upbringing, this might be from when you were a child or university, whatever that might be. Were you taught, or did you ever think that your job would be all of you?
I would say that's a really good question. So I'm Asian, I'm Filipino, and there is, in the Asian community, it's very much stressed that you have to be your job, you have to pick a job that's successful. And I don't know if you know about Filipino culture. It's like your parents prefer you to be a nurse or a doctor. Like, because they're like, that's always gonna be needed, and it's high in demand, it's a good paying job. Like, they're like, that's the security job. I knew I couldn't be a doctor because I get queasy when I see blood. I'm like, that's a definite no. Easy check mark. That's a pass. And not a lot of my family are architects. I think there's one. I have an uncle, but I don't really know him, who has taken on the profession of an architect. But I would say definitely my, like, our family, they put a lot of emphasis on having a successful job, of being a successful person, and that usually goes hand in hand. That is, having the successful job, that means you're a successful person.
And how do you define success? And maybe that definition has changed over time.
So
That's a hard one, right?
no, the one that keeps coming up to my head is when, how my family sees it, but it's very much old world culture kind of a thing that I'm trying to disassociate from.
Yeah, let's talk about this. Tell me more. What do you mean by that?
So I went home recently to California because some of my family members are coming from the Philippines to visit for a month or so.
Mhm.
And they're like, okay, well, you have to come home because you haven't seen them in a long time. And so I did. And my aunt was, like very, like, championing me. She's like, oh, they call me Roselle, is my middle name. She's like, Roselle has, she's in DC. She's worked really hard. She's speaking at these conferences, and she was listing down my full resume to them. And one of my uncles, who is on, like older world view kind of person, says, well, she doesn't have a family. She doesn't have, she doesn't have a husband. She doesn't have kids. So that's,
Said this aloud with you in the room?
yeah, this is in front of me.
Okay.
And that's just, I mean, that's just culture. Like that's not the first time I've heard it.
Yes, thank you.
So I feel like their version of success for me is so skewed from what my version of success is.
So their version being become a nurse or a doctor or something quote unquote successful and at this and achieve all of these things, these high whatever these are, high things, and also have a family on top of that and be a wife and have children?
Yes, be a
Okay, so
spouse. Yeah.
that's their version. What is your version of success?
My version of success would be finding happiness in everything you do.
Yeah.
It is like that discovery of who you are and what really matters to you, and surrounding yourself with the right people who cheer you on.
Are you happy?
That is such a loaded question right now because my boyfriend and I just broke up.
I'm so sorry. That was a horrible question. Okay, so let me reframe it. Let me ask this. What do you do to make yourself happy? Whether it's 16 seconds of happiness or a minute of happiness or a week of happiness, what do you do to make yourself happy?
Fueling myself in different ways. So that is, if it's, I love food. I feel like taste and smell.
Oh gosh, me too.
Yeah.
I'm such a
Yeah.
foodie. Oh
Those are
gosh.
my greatest
Um,
senses. The
I think we could talk about, we should do a whole other episode about
Yeah,
our favorite
I'm
foods.
so down.
Well, actually, wait, hold on. I want to go back into food, but what's your favorite food?
Japanese curry, hands down.
Like the spicy? Is it spicy?
You can make it spicy. So in California, there's this place called Coco Ichibanya. It's also a Japanese chain. They don't have any in the East Coast. So my go-to place as soon as I get home is get Coco Ichibanya. It's Japanese curry. It is that fusion of Indian spices, but in a very subtle Japanese way. Nothing is so overpowering. It just tastes perfect to me.
Oh, man. Okay, so that's something that fuels you is this Japanese food.
Yeah, but I don't have access to that. So, but other foods in DC will feel me of just satisfying my taste buds. Menya Hosaki, which is the ramen place in Petworth, that one really satisfies my taste buds.
Oh gosh. I love their peanut
Peanut
sauce.
sauce. Oh, I don't think I've had it.
Oh gosh, it's so good. It's so good.
All right. Okay. I'm excited.
Yeah, you should.
Yeah.
That's good.
So that fuels me, and I like this weekend, I'm really excited to get my first facial.
Oh, yeah. Great. Good for you. And you're in your 30s.
Yeah. I'm like, where have I been? But I'm very low maintenance in my, I don't know, outer appearance. So
Yeah. But that's more than a facial, I think, is more than outer appearance, too, right?
I don't know. I haven't had one.
I don't know. You tell me. Yeah. Or it's just pampering yourself, just respecting your body enough to pamper yourself. And I'm the same. I don't do massages that much. I probably should do more.
Hmm.
Kind of like yoga, right? Like, it's,
Yeah.
yes, you might get toned and you might become stronger, but also your inner self gets stronger as well.
Yeah.
The same facial.
Yeah. That's a good point. And I do get massages too, to kind of that instant release of like, oh wow, that I didn't think I had tension there. And you it's a lot of discovery.
It feels like you're very aware of your body.
Yoga has definitely taught me that of, if something hurts, it's sometimes it's not because of you did something physically. It could be something just that's just stored emotionally.
Yeah, absolutely. So what do you wish more architects knew about that, like being aware of your body? Because if you think about architects, we mostly sit behind our computer all day, right? I mean, yes, we go to job sites, we do other things, but
Mhm.
at one point in my career, I was literally waking up, running to the office, sitting at my desk for I remember my first job, the principal architect who was amazing, amazing. I think about him very often, actually. He told me, you should step away from your desk more.
Mhm.
And at some point, I was sitting at my desk all day long, trying to problem solve all day long. So tell me a little bit about your body awareness and how that has helped with your architecture and your job and your career.
Yeah. There's a really big story of like advocacy for me in this area. It happened, I would say either 2017 or 2018 when standing desks weren't a regular at our offices. But I remember myself just there's just this internal like pain that's like building up. It's like I'm about to burst because I'm like, I cannot sit here for 8 hours, like drawing these plans, and I cannot physically just let my lower back take all of this. So I remember I was very shy, very like I was like I might get fired, but I walked up to a shareholder's desk. I'm like, so I am in pain physically. I cannot sit for 8 hours long of just drawing these plans and like creating my work. And I would like to request for a standing desk. And I joked about this because maybe my deflection is joking. I'm like, I'm 5'1". You could hardly tell I'm standing anyway if you give me a standing desk.
Well, this response.
He was all like, yeah, let's bring it up to HR. Maybe we can do something about it. And then the HR director at that time, she's like, if you give me a doctor's note that says you need a standing desk, then we'll think about it. And so I went to my doctor and got the note. It was really simple, really easy. And that has always been a advocacy story that I don't talk much about, but I definitely felt that big urge in my body that says we cannot physically be in this chair for the whole day.
And that's just normal for a human being, right? I mean, humans were not put on this earth to sit in a chair for 8 hours a day.
Yeah. So I mean, I was very scared because it was early in my career that I had to ask for something and nobody else had it. But ever since then, they made a policy: if you get a doctor's note, then we can get you a standing desk.
So what did you say to your doctor? I mean, you just said my back hurts and I need a doctor's excuse or a doctor's note?
I was transparent. I'm like, because I need I was all like, I can't physically sit all day at work. And they asked if I get a doctor's note, then they might provide me with a standing desk. And then it's like, okay,
On one side, I'm just giving my blunt reaction. On one side, that's amazing, like
yeah.
just go get a doctor's note. But on the other side, it's like, if you couldn't get a doctor's note, let's say you just couldn't
Hmm.
for whatever reason, shouldn't they give you one
Anyway.
anyway? Because you're saying my back is hurting, I am hurting. You're communicating your needs.
Hmm.
That's just a thought. I mean, you don't have to come.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I feel like things doesn't have to be transactional. Like we'll only get it for you if you show us proof that you really need it. Like your word should be enough to carry on the request. But I mean, it's their rules, so I'm kind of just willing to play with it. I'm like, okay, well then
Right. Well, good for
Mhm.
you. And how many people have standing desks now in your office?
I would say actually not even that many. I'm gonna say out of like 60, maybe 15, maybe 25%.
That's a lot. I mean, more than I would expect.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Well, good for you. Good for you for advocating. And this is just a message for any architect or design professional out there that it's physically hurting for sitting in your desk for long periods of time. Ask advocate for yourself, just
Yeah.
like Diane has done, and ask for a stand-up desk or ask for what you need
Mm-hmm.
because your physical health is worth it.
Yeah.
So we'll end on this, Diane. What would you tell your younger architectural self?
My younger architectural self, I would tell her that her voice is going to get stronger as she gets older and to not lose herself in what others think that you should be or who you should be. Just keep paving a non-linear path for you and just listen to your intuition. Everything is inside you. You just have to silence all the other voices that are external, and you're going to have fun discovering who you are and what your values are.
That's amazing. That is so inspirational, Diane. I really appreciate your voice and you coming on the Healthy Architect podcast.
The pleasure is all mine, Morgan. Thank you for popping my cherry on this podcast thing.
It's the first cherry I've ever popped. Okay, have a wonderful day, Diane.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Bye. You too.
Bye.
Architects, this podcast is the culmination of the most creative minds in the world. The planning and programming of this content is extensive, and I'm proud to be a small part of the change that's happening in our profession. If you want to be a part of this change, the very best thank you you can give the Healthy Architect is giving us a 5-star review and sharing this episode with a colleague. When you give us a 5-star review and you share this podcast, you are playing a role in changing our industry, one architect at a time. Be happy, be healthy, and take action towards a more fulfilling career. See you next week on the Healthy Architect Podcast.